Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about this. Learning to be okay with uncertainty. Okay, get to that in a second. Hope everybody's doing well. Smile. You're going to be okay. It's just a matter of time, but I know you want it yesterday. All right. So, learning to be okay with uncertainty. What does that mean? Not knowing what the heck is going to happen, right? Welcome to 2025 on the planet Earth. Wild and crazy times all over the place, regardless of your opinions politically, geopolitically, globally, whatever. Interesting times. Lots of uncertainty, but trust that we're going to be okay. All right? So, in the framework and context of mind body symptoms, learning to be okay with uncertainty is really an important skill to build. Okay, and it is a skill because it takes practice. Being okay with uncertainty is difficult and it takes work, and it's not exactly easy in the beginning, but it does get easier the more you do that. And so this mind body stuff, these symptoms, they're fairly unpredictable, right? But when you start to understand at the high level how they function, how they work, what's the driver behind symptoms? It's the brain's constant awareness, always looking out for danger. Its job is to keep us safe and alive. So when you understand the brain's doing its job by scanning for danger or threat, and when you understand that when the brain perceives danger or threat, it will warn you. And unfortunately, the subconscious primal brain doesn't have language to say, hey Dan, take your hand off that stove. So what does it do? It interprets that you're touching some metal, there's some heat coming up through the nervous system, through the brainstem and up into the brain, and the brain has to look around and talk to all sorts of parts of the brain, like memories, like, hey, are stoves dangerous? Should we be aware of that? What's with this heat? Touching metal. Yeah, I think there's some threat here, legitimate. So let's turn on the alarm system. Ouch. And we get a sharp burning pain that 19 out of 20 times is quick enough, almost instantaneous, to get us to pull our hand off before we burn ourselves. So the brain's doing a wonderful job. And from that standpoint, symptoms are very reliable. When the brain perceives threat or danger, reliably, predictably, certainly, it's going to turn on symptoms. Now, in the case of chronic pain or chronic ailments, oftentimes the brain can get confused, operating on misinformation and fear and past bad experiences and the need to be hyper aware and hyper protective. And it can start to perceive all these things that are not necessarily dangerous as a threat. And so that's why a lot of you say, this is unpredictable. It came out of nowhere. I have no idea what happened. I was doing okay. I was even in a good mood. And all of a sudden, whammo, here came the symptoms. So that's just the nature of the game. The key for us going through it is to recognize and remember and consistently remind, 3 R's, recognize, remember, remind ourselves that we're going to be okay. This is temporary, right? And I hope that makes sense. But uncertainty, we don't always know what caused it. A lot of people spend days, weeks, months, years trying to figure it out. And at the end of the day, what I believe and what I have observed is figuring it out delays symptoms settling down. Because as long as we're trying to figure out what the heck happened, what did I do that caused this? Was it a thought? Was it a movement? Was it something from the outside? Was it my call from so-and-so? Was it job pressure, money pressure? Did I just get a bill in the mail? Like, what was it? Holy crap, why did my brain do this? Or I got emotional, but why does my brain have to crank up my symptoms when I'm feeling sad or angry? And we spend all this time ruminating and problem solving and trying to figure it out. And my question is, to what end? Let's say you do figure it out. Yup, a call from so-and-so. That's what triggered me. So now what? Do you avoid that person from now on? You never talk to them again? Unfortunately, that's what many people's strategy is. They start to identify the things that trigger them, and then they have a list of things to avoid. And when you do that long enough, your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until some people don't leave the house and some don't even leave the bed. So avoidance isn't a strategy. Getting out of bed is an uncertain task. Stepping into the shower is an uncertain task. Might we slip and fall? Maybe. Walking down the sidewalk to your driveway, that's an uncertain task. Might I miss a step and trip? Stub my toe on the stairs and fall? Who knows? Life is full of uncertainties, but we can't be so hyper vigilant that we protect against every single little thing that could go wrong. We just can't. Life is uncertain. And in becoming okay with uncertainty will expand your capacity to feel safer in the world. And I get it. We don't need universal safety globally, everywhere, to teach our brains to shut off our symptoms. We're trying to create safety mentally, emotionally, physically, how we treat ourselves, how we respond to our symptoms, and by shifting our attention towards living and engaging in life. But all of that gets way easier if you have a solid foundation that says, I know what creates symptoms, the perception of danger or threat. I know that applies to me because I've done the assessments, and yeah, that's it. By the way, book bonus, you're going to get a printout of the assessments that you can kind of check off boxes and do your own self-evaluation. So that'll be available to anybody who buys a book, among a number of other resources that I'm making available. So uncertainty. How do you teach the brain that you're okay? Know what causes symptoms. Do the assessments. Know that there's a solution. And I hope the evidence of all of my successes and all of the successes in the mind-body TMS community are evidence. There are a couple of clinical trials. I think some doctor in Harvard did a study. There was a Boulder back pain study. I don't have the link to the Harvard one, but perhaps if somebody searches for it and can find it, maybe you can share it with me so I can share it. But science is catching up, and the medical establishment is catching up. Got a beautiful message the other day that I shared as a success story. And they said their medical establishment down in Australia is going to buy 10 of the books to hand out to many of their doctors, which I think is outstanding, that somebody at the management level is starting to say, hey, let's pay attention to this stuff. There's some new understanding. Not so new. Sarno figured it out long ago, but there's growing understanding to how this system called the human brain, the body, the nervous system, the fear response, the fight or flight, the pain response, and I call it a danger response. Symptoms are a danger response. And so once we understand that, we can validate, hey, am I truly in danger? Nope. Okay. Then it's a false alarm, and I can respond accordingly, right? I don't have to get out the fire extinguisher and spray down my whole kitchen when there's no fire. I can simply open a window, turn on the exhaust fan, and wave a towel at the smoke detector until it goes off. That's a much more appropriate response to a false alarm of a smoke detector in a kitchen. When you know that the symptoms you're experiencing are a false alarm because you know how they work and that it applies to you, then you can have a more appropriate response to symptoms, which is, ouch, I see you there. You're not playing nice today, but I get it. I'm not concerned. I'm unbothered by this because I know what it is, and I know it's temporary. You got that? Temporary. And so you see how when you really understand what's going on, when you understand there's no fire in the kitchen, the smoke detector just got a whiff of the burning butter in the skillet, then you can have a more appropriate response for the level of threat. And when we can determine the level of threat is not really a threat, it's a perceived threat, then our response can be more appropriate to the level of threat. I hope that makes sense. I say that a lot, don't I? So, let me know what you think. If you are very uncomfortable with uncertainty, this is something that you want to build some repetitions on and learn that, hey, an uncertain life doesn't mean you have to hurt or have other symptoms. We don't need global, universal peace and safety to get better. I got better in the middle of a marriage falling apart. So, emotionally, it was the most chaotic time of my life. I still got better because I was able to somehow accidentally convey enough messages of safety through many of the things I teach, and I got better. I've been better for probably going on 15 years because, heck, I've been doing the videos almost 6 years. So this stuff works, folks. It's your turn. It's predictable. It's reliable. It's not certain when it will happen, but it is certain that once you neutralize the fear, neutralize the perceived threat or danger, that the brain will settle things down. That's fairly certain. When it happens, that's more uncertain. The path to get there, it's challenging. It's different for every person. We all have our own different fears. Some of us are more capable of saying, nope, I'm committed. I'm not going to fall for the symptom lie. And others are a little bit more frightened by symptoms and fall into despair easier. But all of us can get better. Even if you're one of the more anxious, more scared, you can get better too. Because I can assure you, talking to nearly 100 success stories over the years, many of these people were terrified. Many. And they got better anyway. So no matter how scared you are, you can get better too. Get comfortable with uncertainty, but then do the right things to create more certainty in your outcome. So, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you're all doing great. Hope your year is off to a fantastic start. Keep an eye out. More book announcements coming down the line. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow. Love you. Take care.